You know, when you think about it, the history of trying to kill world leaders is just this wild catalog of failure, bizarre plots, and unbelievable luck. We're talking pistols that won't fire, exploding cigars, you name it. But these aren't just strange footnotes in history books. No, these stories actually tell us a whole lot about political violence itself. Okay, let's just dive right into the data because it is telling a pretty worrying story. For decades, the number of assassination attempts on world leaders was actually on the decline. But now, that number is ticking back up. Just think about this. In only the first few years of this decade, we've already seen more attempts than in the entire 2010s combined. So you have to ask, right, what is going on? This sharp rise kind of forces us to look backward to figure out what's happening now. So what can this long, often very strange history of failed assassinations teach us about our own moment of political division and these new evolving threats? To really get to the heart of who these attackers are and what drives them, there is no better case study than one of history's most frequent targets. We're talking about a monarch who, it seems, had a target on her back for her entire reign. Yep, you're seeing that right. 8. Not once, not twice, but 8 separate times people tried to end the life of Queen Victoria, and she survived every single one. It makes her this remarkable case study in both, persistence on the part of her would-be killers and sheer survival on hers. And what's so fascinating is that these attackers rarely fit one single mold. You had guys like Arthur O'Connor, who had very clear political demands. I mean, his pistol was broken. He didn't even plan to fire it. He just wanted to make a scene. But then you have others, like the very first guy to try, Edward Oxford. He was just an 18-year-old kid who seemed to be chasing fame, firing a gun that was loaded with nothing but powder. Okay, so we've seen these lone, often disturbed actors. But now, let's see how these plots evolve, how they get tangled up in the shadowy world of international espionage, right in the middle of the Cold War. So it's May 13th, 1981. A gunman, Mehmet Ali Aja, shoots Pope John Paul II 4 times, right in St. Peter's Square. The Pope miraculously survives. But Aja's arrest? Well, that was just the beginning of a mystery that, to this day, has never really been solved. Who sent him? And here's where it gets wild, because the conspiracy theories just spiral out in every direction. Was it the KGB, angry about the Pope's support for Polish independence? Was it Aja's own nationalist group, the Grey Wolves, just looking for a big payday? Or maybe a direct order from the top of the Kremlin? And the assassin himself, he just made it all worse, changing his story over and over again for years. So if the mystery around the Pope was like a complex spy novel, the CIA's decades-long effort to get rid of Fidel Castro, well, it was more like a dark, kind of surreal comedy. The Cubans claim there were over 600 attempts. The CIA admits to, well, a few. Back in the 1970s, a big Senate investigation called the Church Committee confirmed at least 8 different CIA plots, and they were, let's just say, creative. The plans included everything from hiring actual mobsters like Sam Giancana to slip poison pills into Castro's food, to this truly wild idea to make his famous beard fall out using thallium salts. And then, things just went from spycraft to just plain weird. You can't make this stuff up. There were actual plans for a scuba suit dusted with a fungus that would cause a horrible skin disease, a conch shell packed with explosives to be planted where he liked to dive, and of course, the most famous one of all, the exploding cigar. But here's the kicker. Not all these plots were even serious attempts to kill him. One plan, called Operation Bounty, was to drop leaflets over Cuba offering rewards for taking out communists. And the price on Castro's head? 2 cents. Just 2 pennies. The goal wasn't to kill him, it was to humiliate him. The sheer incompetence of so many of these plots really makes you shift your focus, away from the assassins and onto the survivors. Because sometimes escaping death just comes down to things that are completely out of anyone's control. I mean, take President Andrew Jackson. In 1835, a guy points a pistol at him point-blank range. It misfires. So the attacker pulls out a second pistol. It also misfires. The Smithsonian later calculated the odds of that happening to be 1 in 125,000. And what does the 67-year-old Jackson do? He chases the guy down and starts beating him with his cane. And then you've got Theodore Roosevelt, who basically turned an assassination attempt into a branding opportunity. He gets shot in the chest on the campaign trail, but the bullet gets slowed by his thick coat and a folded 50-page speech. Being an experienced hunter, he figures out the wound isn't fatal, and then defiantly gives his entire hour-and-a-half speech before even thinking about going to the hospital. And sometimes, it's just about being built differently. The German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck was shot 5 times at close range. 2 of the bullets literally just bounced off his ribs. He walked away with a few bruises. I guess sometimes it's better to be lucky or just incredibly tough. So, okay, we've looked at the motives, the bizarre plots, the incredible survivals. But let's circle back to where we started and really talk about why this history of political violence is so relevant today. A failed attempt can be just as powerful as a successful one. For Pope John Paul II, it became this global symbol for forgiveness when he actually met with and pardoned his attacker. For Teddy Roosevelt, it cemented his whole bull moose persona, this image of a man who was literally bulletproof. The story that his survivor tells really matters. And as we saw at the very beginning, this threat isn't fading away. It's not just history. In fact, it's evolving. The tools of political violence are getting an upgrade for a new era, and they're presenting challenges that leaders of the past could never, ever have imagined. Today's assassins don't need to get close anymore. They can use commercially available drones packed with explosives, just like the ones used in attempts against leaders in Venezuela and Iraq. In this climate of intense political division, technology that anyone can get their hands on creates a really dangerous new landscape. Which leaves us with this final, really urgent question. This history of failed assassinations is a story of ideology, of insanity, of pure luck and incompetence. But as the methods get more sophisticated and the political climate gets more volatile, it forces us to ask a difficult question. Are we really prepared for what comes next?